Good evening, friends. This week for Perspective, we have Radhika Gupta with us. She proudly calls herself the girl with a broken neck. She is from Wharton and is an inspiration for many young girls like me. Uh, she had a Wall Street job, which the fund really managed over $20 billion. And then after the financial crisis, she shifted back to India and roamed around the streets of Bombay and and made sure she did every paperwork on her own for Forefront Capital. And now Edelweiss has taken that company over. And not just that, she is the CEO of Edelweiss AMC. Welcome, Radhika.
Thank you, Mansi, for the introduction. I welcome you, Radhika ma'am, for the second edition of Perspectives. This is our first digital initiative to connect with our clients and, make them aware of what is happening in the market and be more informed, because in these COVID times, there is no other way to be in touch with each other. So we are also making maximum use of this digital things which has started happening in. And so let's start. Good evening, friends. And I welcome you in the second session of the Perspective, where we discuss how to manage investments in these troubled times. Today, Radhika ji would help us understand debt markets and how we can invest in these falling interest rate market scenario. COVID has made reaching out to each other difficult, but at the same time has given us a new medium to learn and engage with each other virtually. One more quality which I think Mansi had forgot to mention about Radhika, which is she is an extremely good writer and a poet. So before I start this conversation with you, Radhika, I just want to share with you something which I thought will probably fit in pretty well in these times. कितना अजीब है ये फलसफा जिंदगी का, कितना अजीब है ये फलसफा जिंदगी का, दूरियां सिखाती है कि नजदीकियां क्या होती.
अरे वाह, बहुत खूबसूरत. What a beautiful start.
Thank you so much, Radhika.
And thank you so much for having me on this.
Wonderful, wonderful, ma'am. So we'll just begin this conversation by understanding from you what is actually happening in the debt markets. Why so much risk aversion? Why so much fear in the market?
So I think it has been and actually what has happened in the debt markets is not 3 months old. I think what has happened in the debt markets is a sense of chaos that started in 2018 and has continued honestly through 2019 and 20 with the first IL&FS default. And I think, Akash, if I look at it sort of very, very honestly, I feel that we as Indian investors, when we think of debt, we had a very simple notion कि हमको FD करना है. We come from a FD mindset. इतने साल में इतना मिलेगा. I mean, that was our understanding of debt. Now, the fact that debt investment also entails different kind of risks, and I think this is a good forum to talk about them, that is something that we don't fully understand. So when you go into a bank, you say, I'm going to do an FD, and if you get an FD for 7% versus 6%, you'll obviously do the 7% FD. That's what you were conditioned to. But when you invest in debt funds, obviously it is not so complicated, but it is not as simple as that. And I think that's the understanding gap that I think we have all realized that we need to bridge. It also, I think debt is the place, by the way, where I think the role of the advisor comes in very handy, because we have so many categories of mutual fund schemes. Many of them actually cater for institutional clients, and we can talk about this on the show, but there are actually only 2-3 things a debt investor needs to focus on. And I think even today there are tremendous opportunities and simple sleep easy opportunities in the debt market for investors if we just zoom in on the few right things to do and the way to think about it. So while it's been a tumultuous period, while you keep seeing haircuts and side pockets and credit and all this stuff, and media of course makes it out to be very, very difficult, and interest rate cuts, I think if you zoom in and simplify, there are actually a bunch of simple opportunities out there.
Got it. So that brings me to the next question, even though you touched a bit on it. I mean, why debt investing is not simple in India for our investors?
In fact, I have actually told SEBI this. I think, we have 16 categories of debt funds. If you look at what you or I need as an investor, जब हम बैंक में जाते हैं, तो we need a place to park our short-term money. We say savings account में we'll park it, something where we know that nothing will happen to it, right? Our money is hard earned. And then we need a place to park money that is 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. कि भाई बेटी की शादी होगी 10 साल बाद तो उसके लिए I want to park money. 5 साल बाद कोई higher education का खर्चा होगा बच्चे का तो I need to park money. So these are our two needs. Now, and a bank actually does a great job of saying that, okay, you have a savings account and you have FDs of various tenors. That's something I'm trying to build in Edelweiss AMC. The rest of it, whether it's a floating rate fund or a low duration fund or some medium term fund, I think this is all that makes it complicated. And that's why there's a need to simplify. And I think if you had to simplify debt investing, this is what I would do as a user. This is how I think about it. I would break my money into time horizons where I need my money. And I would put it in 3 buckets, very simply. Money under 3 months, money between 3 months and 3 years, and money after 3 years because of the different tax considerations in India. And there are 1-2 products in each bucket that make sense for the consumer. And I would just stick to these 4 or 5 core categories in debt and not do anything else beyond that.
Radhika, more than 50% of investors' portfolio is fixed income. And when you have already spoken about it, most of them think about their fixed income portfolio in the form of tax saving bonds or a fixed deposit or a government securities or something of that sort. But in mutual fund space, we somehow are not able to offer anything which we can call absolutely something like an FD or FD wala types, which carries a safety. So, I mean, are we as a mutual fund participants offering right products or offering them sufficient things to come into it? Because clients don't understand duration, credit for that matter.
I absolutely agree. And, at the risk, because I'm, of talking about something that we have done very closely, because I think this is a relevant thing, because what we are looking for in fixed income is 2-3 things. One, you are looking for predictability of return. Ki itne saal mein itna milega. Second, you're looking for safety. Third, you're looking ideally for liquidity. Now, while there are all these products and traditional products, as you mentioned, please remember that mutual funds carry the advantage of taxation, and that advantage is very significant. Today, the advantage, even and in a low interest rate environment, everything that comes to you is very important. Today, you pay 30% tax on traditional instruments. You pay, after indexation, about 10-12% tax on mutual fund instruments. So you have to kind of look at mutual funds because it's hard earned money, and if there's a way to save tax, you have to save tax. Your question, are we offering products that are more in the line of predictable return? I would not say guaranteed return. I think so, yes, I think we are. So multiple AMCs are now running what I call these roll down or target maturity structures. I think Bharat Bond is a prime example of one example, but there are many others. Like we run it in a banking PSU debt fund, where all you do, and we'll talk more about this, is you buy a certain set of bonds and you hold them to maturity. तो फिर आपको ये नहीं सोचना पड़ता कि ड्यूरेशन रिस्क क्या होगी. Okay, interest rates are going to rise, interest rates are going to fall, RBI is going to do this, because frankly you don't care about that. Second thing you don't need to worry about is credit risk. So I think these kind of structures are now being offered where there is reasonable predictability of return and where you can even choose 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, etc., etc.
I got it. I mean, banking per se, there's a question from one of our client on banking PSU side only, Radhika. Now they are asking that a banking PSU with a good portfolio per se is not going to offer more than 5.5 to 6% in current scenario that we are sitting in. And a traditional instrument like a corporate deposit of the largest financial company of this country is going to be offering them 630, 640 types. So taking taxation also into consideration, that becomes a better play. So how are we going to occupy that space into that investor's pocket?
So if you look at a bank PSU roll down, I just quote one of our own fund structures. In a 5-year segment, you are probably at about 5.7%, which on a post-taxes basis is about 5.3 odd percent. Now, a corporate deposit is not the same as a diversified fund. Now, you are saying corporate deposit, and it's a different company, corporate deposit, but please remember, MFs are diversified. The other thing people don't remember about deposits is that deposits, when they break, they have breakage penalties and you get a much lower rate of interest. With MF, they are completely liquid. So I think you can't separate, you have to separate both a little bit. A corporate deposit is ultimately single company risk, a mutual fund is diversified, and bank PSU is like holding a collection of corporate deposits. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. The taxation profile will also be different of both of them. So just keep that in mind. I would also caution, and I think Vikas brought up a very good point. See, what happens in a low interest rate environment is we also feel very stressed, because हम लोगों का क्या है, we have earned 7 to 8% returns. Now these returns become 5-6% and it psychologically starts to bother you. यार इतना कम मिल रहा है. My only request to people is that, see, enough mistakes have been made in fixed income. Fixed income is not the place. The biggest risk in a low rate environment is to stretch, कि थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा कर लूँ to get that 1% more. I would discourage you from doing that. This is safety capital. Don't do something you'll regret. And you just have to get used to the fact that you will get lower rates. Inflation, last year when you were getting 8%, your economy was growing at 3-4%. This year when you're getting 5%, your economy is growing at -5%. So actually the world hasn't changed. आपका नजरिया थोड़ा बदलना पड़ेगा.
Fair enough. Fair point, Radhika. One more thing which I wanted to understand with you, Radhika, is that investors don't understand what is credit, what is duration for that matter. Don't you think we should be providing more clarity to investor on these sides rather than just providing them categorization? That boss, we have 3 months ka bucket in the form of a liquid, then there is a low duration, then there is banking PSU and different stuffs which is available with us.
Yeah, so I have two perspectives on this. One is, I think investors generally are not suited towards taking large amounts of credit risk because they don't understand credit risk. I think, when a small cap fund is, and I'm being very frank, when a small cap fund is down 20%, we don't feel very bad about it because we understand that risk. We're like, company theek hai, थोड़ी earnings खराब है, थोड़ा market is valuing it badly, वापस आ जाएगा. I think that is the thinking we have when equity funds are down. Unfortunately, when a borrower defaults, it's almost a permanent loss of capital. I mean, it can't come back. So I think credit risk is something that has to be very, very satellite in your asset allocation. I think in terms of what we can provide, by the one thing that we think as an AMC is you should try and increase the disclosure, as you said, around your funds. So like we disclose the liquid and arbitrage funds, which are more short-term funds, every week. We think those are important categories. We disclose it every week. I think it's very important for investors to understand the debt portfolio and the debt policies of a fund house that they're working with, not just with debt funds, but even with arbitrage funds, hybrid fund, any fund that touches debt. I always say it's very important to understand the debt component of what you're doing. And I also think investors should ask more questions, because when you ask more questions, you will get more answers from AMCs. उस point ये है कि अगर आप रिटर्न के बारे में सवाल पूछोगे तो आपको रिटर्न के ही जवाब मिलेंगे. Ultimately, AMCs are here to serve advisors and consumers. तो अगर आप लोग इनके बारे में सवाल पूछोगे तो हमें जवाब देने पड़ेंगे. And I think more people like you are asking those questions also.
Which is in right spirit, I would say.
It is.
Radhika, just to take you on a different side, equity. In fact, I read one of your presentations only last week, where you had stated that equity has given close to 12% return and debt, I think, has given close to 8% return in last 25 years.
Yes.
So today, a millennial investors would, on boards with us at the moment, doing well in his life. I mean, what kind of a rationalized investor experience, I would say return expectation that he should be having in his mind when he's investing for the next 25 years?
I think that's a great question. And I think it is, young India, and I consider myself kind of young, is aspirational. So we have high return expectations. We work hard for our money and we want our money to work harder than us. That said, I think as your point said, it's very important to have realistic expectations. So now I go into the equity market thinking I will get whatever you're in a normal scenario. If GDP is growing at 5%, inflation is 5%, I think I will get 10 to 12% on equity returns. If you start expecting that I will get 15 to 20%, in my view, it is the beginning of the end. And on average, I think you will get 6 to 7% in fixed income. That could change year by year. Now, the problem with equities is this. If you think you're going to get 10, 12%, it's not 10, 10. It's plus 30, minus 30, etc., etc. And that volatility is actually very volatile. And then there is a mental volatility, which is far bigger than the actual market volatility. But I think this is a good expectation you should go in it. I'll give you, I lived abroad for many years. If you look at some of the finest institutional investors in the world and think of how they benchmark themselves, they say that if I can beat the rate of inflation, jo bhi महंगाई चल रही है, if I can beat that by 4%, I have done exceptionally well. So I think that is a way to, this is the best investors in the world, where they do all kinds of instruments. They'll do real estate, they'll do private equity, they'll do hedge funds, they have access to everything in the world. And this is their outcome. So I think that's a good outcome to have for yourself. So I always say if I can make 9-10% on my portfolio, I'm very happy, personally.
So you're saying collectively debt plus equity?
Debt plus equity, plus if I want to do gold, plus if I want to do international markets, plus if I want to do whatever I want to do. On a blended way, if my statement can actually say that, and I'm telling you, you'll be surprised at how many statements give you much less than that. A wealth manager only told me this. He said, I think 70% of clients stay because clients move in and out. You enter equity at the wrong time. You make all the mistakes that everybody makes. So you think 9-10% इसमें क्या है, but बनता है बहुत लोगों का.
True, very true. You have to be very disciplined, to hold on to whatever decision that you have actually ended up taking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is again a very big behavioral kind of a problem. So coming to this, probably the reason why people are not able to stick to their decisions of investment, whatever that they have made, is volatility that we see in this market. And well, in India, we have experienced volatility on equity in a big way, and probably we are used to it also. But debt is something new which we experience maybe in last few years. So what would be your advice to investors? I mean, how should they handle this volatility which is coming in? I mean, is there any formula that they can use it or, can practice so that this falling NAVs don't bother them much?
I think there's one formula. There's two formulas for debt, right? One is to avoid credit risk as much as you can. The second is to see where does volatility and debt come from? Either it comes from credit, which is bad borrowers defaulting on. The second volatility comes from interest rate movements. Now, you know that if interest rates move up, bond prices move in the other direction. So that is a known volatility. What you should do is, the simple rule in debt is, अगर आपका 3 महीने का time horizon है, please invest in debt paper of 3 months. If you have a 5-year time horizon, invest in matching maturity paper. If you do this exercise, you mitigate volatility to a large extent. Which is what I said, if you want to be a debt investor and do this in a checklist way, if someone asked me how I had to do it, take less than 3 month money and put it in liquid and overnight funds, right? Those are short term. I sometimes have investors who have come to me, and because of this credit, I mean, it's really funny, right? This whole credit thing happened. So an investor told me, ma'am, I'm really scared. I moved out of liquid funds and I moved to gilt funds. And I said, liquid and gilt. And I said, why did you do that? And he was a young millennial investor. And he said, because gilt has no credit risk. So what did I do wrong? I said, yeah. So to jump out of a fire, you have jumped into a frying pan because you've taken duration risk. Now that gilt is holding paper of 7 to 10 years. So if interest rates move by 1%, that fund could move by 7%. Are you mentally ready for that? And he said, no. And then I told him, you could have been in overnight funds. If you really thought the world was going to end, there's something that holds 1 day paper. So hold that. So if you have less than 3 month money, please hold liquid and overnight funds. If you have 3 month to 3 year money, you can hold low duration funds or you can hold arbitrage funds. They are very, very tax efficient. Over a year, actually, arbitrage funds attract a 10% rate of tax. I love them. They don't have credit and duration risk. And above 3 years, you can hold what Vikas said about banking PSU debt funds, these target maturity, roll down funds, all this kind of stuff. If you want to invest for 10 years, then you pick a product that has a 10-year maturity. If you want to invest for 5 years, you pick a product that has a 5-year maturity. इससे आपकी जो mark to market volatility है, वो चली जाएगी. I mean, the NAV will still move up and down. But if you hold for the holding period, then you won't have a problem. The other thing is you have to mentally condition to yourself that NAV moving up and down is okay. I mean, you're sitting in Calcutta, Vikas. I was talking to a friend in real estate and I told him, yeah, the good thing is home prices don't have an NAV. Na? There's no NAV of your house that is published here. then value
Yes,
research
yes.
doesn't do an analysis of it, then WhatsApp doesn't say इसमें side pocket हो गया, वो नहीं होता. So some of that NAV matching is also mental conditioning.
I think that is the biggest enemy, I would say, rather than any NAV.
Yeah. So MTM,
So digitalization has.
I would
Yes,
just
sorry,
say
go ahead.
check your portfolio less. Check your portfolio.
Yes.
Everybody checks their portfolio, I think, every week. Check it at most once a quarter, unless the world has really ended. And by the way, if the world has really ended, you can't do very much about it. In any case, try to not check it more than once a quarter. That'll help.
Radhika, I wanted your thoughts on one category, which is dynamic asset allocation. So you run a very well managed fund, which is really done well for investors in the last couple of years. So we as an advisor have really and very strongly pitched this product to our retail investors. And it has done well also for them in this kind of a fall, which we saw in last 3 months kind of a period. I want to understand from you, as the way this product has been positioned, can this really become largest mutual fund category over a period of time?
So you are talking about my favorite category. I genuinely think that the dynamic asset allocation category should be bigger than the whole current equity mutual fund category, for sure. And I'm glad you're talking to retail investors about this. I'll tell you a personal story. 70% of my own investments go into this category. And I love this category.
Oh.
That's how much I love it. And I'll tell you why I think it is a category that is relevant for retail and relevant for HNI. I think when we become HNIs, we feel that we have to sophisticated karna hai, but we make the same mistakes as retail investors. This product has equity. This product has debt. And it has the ability to shift between equity and debt depending on market conditions. And it relies on a process and a model to do that. It doesn't rely on discretion. I get a lot of people who say, ma'am, the market's at 10,000. If it falls to 7,000, if I know that, should I exit equities, then come back at 7? And I keep telling them, one, no one can predict where the market is going. Secondly, even if you could predict with us, if the market falls from 10 to 7, me as a human being will not have the courage to make an investment, but a model driven fund will have the courage to make an investment. So that's what I like about it. On average, you're holding 50-60% equities. In good times, you can hold 80. In bad times, you can hold 30. And it does it. So people keep asking me how my asset allocation has changed in this period. And I said, I didn't need to change anything. The dynamic asset allocation fund did that work. So I think it's outsourcing your investment needs in a very clean way. The other thing is that as Indian investors, what we all desire, what do we all want, right? We want कि यार market गिरे तो बहुत disaster ना हो, इतना disaster ना हो कि हम डर के भाग जाए. And I think this solves that. And the second thing we want is कि market बढ़े तो कुछ तो हम उस growth में benefit करें. I think these are all the objectives. And I was looking at our own BAF, as you mentioned over this period. I think over this period that markets are down, I think 10-11%, net markets have come down, markets have gone up. But you do realize that when markets fall 50, they need to double to come back to the original level of capital. So a fund that protects downside and manages to capture even some of the upside actually does better. So in this period, BAF is up when markets are down 30. And I think that is the important part of the journey, that if you can protect downside enough. So I remember a period in March when an advisor had called me and said, markets are down 30, but thankfully I'm only down 14. I think that is very comforting, because part of this whole thing about investing is also just staying invested. I think investing is not so difficult, but a lot of it is just riding through. Or agar aapka portfolio 30% girta hai, you don't feel like riding through. You feel panicked. You feel like taking out money at the bottom. All of these are things that they've happened to me in 2008. But agar aapka portfolio 10-15% girta hai na, to I think you live to fight another day. And I think that's the problem that BAF solves. So it's a very long answer to your question, but that's why I love the product.
No, definitely. And I feel genuinely that it should become the largest possible category so that we get maximum participation from the investor.
Yeah.
And this possibly is a product which is made for masses and can be reached out to masses.
It's actually, as you said, it's a mass product. It's not a niche product. Because people keep asking, how should I do my asset allocation? Should I do this much equity? Should I do this much debt? Should I shift it? A lot of that is taken care of, and taken care of in a systematic way. And as you said, I think our objective is that more and more investors move away from keeping money in a bank and invest. And I think this is something that can push people to invest and stay invested. It's not about just investing, it's about continuing to invest.
And frankly, in a falling interest rate scenario, probably this is the best alternate that people can choose and be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 And I think there are great funds in this category doing very, very simple things. Multi-cap equity, which is your dal chawal, shorter term debt, which is your dal chawal, blended into a single fund.
Right. So Radhika, I'll take your interest, some side to the behavioral side of the investing. I read somewhere that money is not made in products. It is actually made in your behavior. So what should an investor do to have a right kind of a behavior towards investing?
Okay. I think there are a few things, and this is something that can go on forever. I mean, this is a topic you could talk on forever. But I mean, investing in that sense, to give you an anecdote, it is a story where two people can start at the same point, and there are enough very rich people who retire bankrupt because of bad habits. And there are some people who humbly save and follow the right behavior and actually retire and lead a very comfortable life. And the difference between both is not the level of income or education. It's just the behavior. So in fact, in that sense, investing is a no nepotism profession. I mean, it's a very democratic profession, right? It's just about being well behaved. So that I think is very interesting about investing. I think there are a few things you can do. One is that you should set up goals in investing. And I always say, like one of the things I've said in my videos is that every individual has a unique personality. Just like you have a unique emotional personality, you have a unique financial personality. And it is important to understand that. You may be a very aggressive investor. I may be a very conservative investor. That may be a function of your past. That may be a function of your background. That may be a function of your circumstances. That may be a function of your personality. I think investors have to invest for their goals, personality, and needs. Because in 2008, I realized I'm a very conservative investor. At that point, I was 100% equity investor. And I realized that 2008, जब पूरा market होता है for me in the asset management business, my AUM falls, my returns fall, my company stock falls, my ESOP falls. By the way, my husband is in the same profession. So the family is in a very aggressive profession. Hence, our investments are conservative. And so I think personal finance is personal first, finance second. That is the number one behavioral tip I would give you. That personal finance is personal first. So understand your personality. A client told me today, my asset allocation is a reflection of me and my personality. And I think it is a very good statement to take away. Once you realize that, the second thing to do in this thing is not compare. I always tell my employees, don't compare your career to this guy's career and that guy's career, right? Everybody has their own journey. Don't compare your returns to the next guy's return. Ab, तुमने एक फंड में इन्वेस्ट कर लिया है. Now don't chase the best performing fund. तुमने शादी कर ली है. Now you've got a good wife. Are you going to now say and chase the best optimal wife? It doesn't work like that, right? As long as things are working, as long as you have a happy home and a happy relationship, things move, because everybody has some problems and you can never figure out what the best performing fund is. So the second thing I would say is, don't get into this comparison mindset of chasing the best performing thing. Nobody can predict it. There are lots of graphs to say this. The best performing country changes every year. The best performing asset class changes every year. And if you think you can predict anything, then please tell me who predicted COVID. And the third thing I would say, and I'll give you an interesting analogy on this one, is that give investing time. I love to use this analogy that you may have heard of whiskey. And I realize it's not evening yet, but I'll still use this analogy. And I'm not a whiskey drinker, by the way. But when I was in Scotland, I went to a single malt, and single malts are, of course, one of the sort of prized collector possessions. My husband collects them. So we went to a distillery in Scotland. और जब whiskey बनाते हैं ना, the process of mixing whiskey actually takes about a week. Like the physical process of mixing and making that liquid and all that work. After that, the whiskey goes to a cask and it sits in a cask. And it sits and it sits and it sits. And it endures different weather and different conditions. And it keeps shrinking in volume and changing in color. And the distillers say that the whiskey acquires maturity and wisdom with time, with flavors of the cask. In fact, for the first 3 years, the damn liquid is not qualified as whiskey. You can't call it legally whiskey. So malts are a great example of how you just sit there and compound. And a 25-year-old malt is worth much more than 2 times a 12-year-old malt. It's probably worth like 10 times more than a malt. And I think that's the thing. Compounding is a very easy thing to say, but sometimes you just have to sit in the cask and endure the weather. It's not the easiest thing to do. You have to sit in the cask and endure the weather.
So spend time in the market and don't time it.
Yeah, spend time in the market, sit in the cask, move up and down, endure the weather, and that's the way you'll get the benefit.
Great, great. Radhika, what would be your view on Indian equity post-COVID?
So look, I don't want to paint a very rosy picture or a very grim picture of the world. I think we paint very extreme pictures of the world. I'd say 2 things. One is that quarter 4 earnings were very rough, and quarter 1 earnings are going to be very rough. But this is not a market that you can logically apply earnings to. Markets are not at their cheapest point. Maybe they were closer to there in March, but they are definitely not at their best point today. In fact, there has been a substantial run up in the last 2 months. You have to keep in mind. I think for equity investors, it is going to be a volatile. That's again something that you have to keep in mind. And given that there is no vaccine on COVID, you will see a lot of volatility. You also have a US election ahead of you. And everything said and done, there is an impact on India. If you have to do equity investments, I highly recommend you use the SIP or STP route today, particularly as retail investors. This is not a time to redeem from equities, but this is not a time to try and be a hero and jump in, because if you invest market 20%, it will be challenging. So, and markets are not at their cheapest point. So don't be excessively negative. Remember that for every piece of bad news, there is also a central bank and a Fed where interest rates are 0. So you have 2 very strong counterbalancing forces. Invest in a staggered way. The other thing that we have said as a fund house is that from a risk reward point of view, we think there may be some emerging opportunity in mid and small cap as a segment. It will take time to turn around and allocate according to your risk profile, but that's just something to keep in mind.
Great. So Radhika, last thing which I wanted to understand from you on the fund perspective is that technology companies based out of US are finding a lot of interest in investing.
Yes.
You run one of the technology funds which was very recently launched and has done pretty well also. So I have a different perspective rather, that for last 8 years, these technology companies in US have done phenomenally well. Do you think this run to be continuing, or probably the time has come for investors to either book out of them or maybe mellow down their expectation out of these companies?
So technology is, I think I'm glad you asked this question. This has been our by far most popular fund this year. That is the US Technology Fund. See, I think there are 2 parts. I think technology is not a sector. Technology is a theme today. And we are not looking at, in the US Tech Fund, 4 or 5 companies. One of the things that we are very careful to do is invest in mid-stage disruptive tech companies. In fact, FT just did a piece on the companies that have been the biggest beneficiaries of COVID. Interestingly, most of them are US Tech Fund positions. So we are not looking at just 50% of our portfolio in 5 tech companies. That's too risky in the tech space. In fact, we don't know more than 3-4% in a company. Technology is a theme that affects every sector, whether it is cars or whether it is industrials or whether it is BFSI, digital payments, or whether it is entertainment. So you can't look at technology as a sectoral fund. It's a theme. It's a theme that has been very powerful. COVID has accelerated it. As I said, if you see FT's piece recently, which I can send on the companies that have done the best in this period, most of them would be these US technology companies. Now, I would also caution investors on 2 things. I think you've raised some very relevant questions. Do not buy into a fund like this just for the returns. That is a very dangerous thing to do. Buy into this because of its diversification value. And let me give you some stats. The correlation of this fund to Indian equities is 0.07, almost nothing. That is the single number 1 reason to buy this fund. In fact, if you look at the presentation, we show an example. Nifty and this fund is more volatile than the Nifty. It is a technology fund. It is more volatile. So it's not less risky. It's done well, but it's not less risky. But if you mix 20% of this fund into your domestic portfolio, you'll increase the return, but you substantially reduce the risk in the portfolio because they are diversified assets. That is the reason to invest in this fund. So invest in it because of asset allocation, not because of its past performance. You can use the STP route. And the other thing I recommend is also use SIPs for this. आप domestic funds में SIP करते हैं ना, इसमें भी SIP करिए. That will mirror out and cut out the volatility that there is. So the key is, think of it as part of your asset allocation. It is diversified because आपकी India में IT means Infosys and Wipro. That has nothing to do with 4G and cloud and all these 5G and cloud and all these themes. So that's why you should invest in it. And you can use a staggered manner. I really recommend SIPs into funds like this.
Great. So Radhika, that brings an end to the market outlook that we wanted to have with you. Now we'll spend maybe next 10 minutes with you in understanding you as a person, because among our investors and their kids, a lot of them are big fan of yours. They follow you in Twitter, and they keep asking us whenever we go to meet their parents about investments and all, about you, what new you are doing, if we have interacted with you, what is the new thing that you're talking about. So they are very passionately following you, I would say.
Oh,
and some of them have actually forwarded these questions on WhatsApp to me last night. I'll try and cover as much as I could.
Lovely.
Radhika, see, you had a great job at Wall Street. You were doing fine. What made you leave that job and come to India and start a forefront over here, absolutely in a new way?
Okay, so I was 24 when I made that decision. And there is a belief and a saying that young blood is hungry and foolish. I fell into the category of hungry and foolish. And I am very happy I took that decision. We were working on Wall Street, and actually my parents thought we were crazy when we made that decision. My husband's parents, to come back to India and do something of our own. I can't explain these decisions logically. If I had to take the same decision when I was 35, 36, maybe I would have had less courage to do it. But I think, one of the things I've always liked is you have to push yourself in life, right? You've gone to a good college, you have a good corporate career, but what next? My father moved every 3 years. So my husband says there is always a desire कि हर 3-4 साल ना कुछ करना चाहिए, कुछ तो करने का वो है, कुछ करने की ख्वाहिश है, कुछ next level पे पहुंचने का वो है. So I think that is what it was. I don't come from a business family. No one in my family has actually worked in corporate India also. We all are from government or teaching. So the idea was just to come back and start something on our own. Maybe I had business-oriented classmates, and I'm really glad I took the step. I think every young person should test entrepreneurship once in their career.
Wonderful. Radhika, tell us something about your famous speech, The Girl with a Broken Neck. I mean, what made you do that? I mean, the kind of a person that we have known you since being in mutual fund industry, and then suddenly this comes in and it comes like a big surprise that there was possibly the best storyteller was among us and we never saw her or heard her.
So I'll tell you a secret that not many people know, and then I'll talk about Girl with a Broken Neck. I was a very shy public speaker. A year before I did this video, when the JP Morgan merger was happening, I had to go and talk to Edelweiss plus JP Morgan mutual fund employees, and I was shuddering holding a mic. It was like shuddering. Most people don't know this about me. I did a storytelling session with someone, with Captain Raghu Raman. I mean, he's a well-known guy. And I loved his approach. And, I think I did a trial of this thing, and I just told him this story in front of 30, 40 people. And when I kind of saw the reaction the story had, I said, yeah, listen, I think one, it helped me because everybody goes through things in their childhood that they're embarrassed about or difficult. We all have our own issues and imperfections. More than anything else, The Girl with a Broken Neck changed my confidence. Like, now I am very open and talking about my experiences. I was not like this before. So I have never told stories. It changed me more than it changed anyone completely. The second thing I went and did this on a lark. I actually did not tell my parents or my family members or my office that I was shooting this video. I just went to Reliance with Captain Raghu, and there were 500 people in the audience, none of whom I knew. And I said, I'm just going to tell my story and just tell it. I did it on a lark. It was like my moving back from US to India. So I do these things on a lark. The video, when it released, went absolutely viral. And it's so heartening, till today, I get messages from people all over the world. From US, I've got messages from Fiji. I've got messages from Pakistan, from Bangladesh. And people talk to me and they write me these letters about their own problems and their own flaws, and how that video has given them the confidence to kind of. So there was a guy who wrote to me with a broken cheek. He said, I am the boy with a broken cheek. And he showed me a picture and how he talked about it. There's a girl who works in a broking firm in Bombay who has a bald patch on her head. And she said now she has the confidence to go out with that bald patch. There are people who in that video related to the fact that, they also wore fake clothing from Linking Road or whatever, Delhi ka, Palika Bazaar and all these markets, and they connected to that. So I think everyone connects to the problems in other people. And I'm just happy the video has given people hope and happiness. I mean, if you can spread that, yeah, why not? I hope more people
absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, let me tell you, I asked all the girls in my team, that they must listen out to this video. It will give them a different level of energy. Because I myself have seen that video maybe a couple of times for that matter.
Yeah, and I've done
it has been excellently done.
I've done a lot of speaking. I was speaking to a client today, and I was supposed to speak to him on Bharat Bond and Arbitrage Fund. Incidentally, the whole conversation ended up being about the video, because he was someone who had actually lost a child, and he related to that point about sort of jumping off the 19th floor. And I mean, on a more sort of slightly sad note, because I think these are times when people are also going through a lot. It's not easy. There are job losses young people are going through. Being at home is not easy. So, and social media is a very negative place. So if we can, in any of our individual capacities, do something to spread hope, happiness, share the fact that, listen, I have gone through this, it's okay, talk about it. I think that's also a very positive thing.
Absolutely, Radhika. This is a bit different, which I wanted to ask you, how easy it is, to work with your spouse in business. You start forefront with Nalin. Now you are there in Edelweiss. Both of you are together in the business. He manages a different set of AIF. You are managing the company. I mean, how easy or difficult it is to be in this business together?
I'll give you an honest answer. It's not super easy. It has its good and bad parts. So we have had the same academic background, and we worked a lot together in college. The good part now of doing something with your spouses, especially, and we worked a lot more closely at Forefront, is that they understand, right? So an entrepreneur's life is pretty tough, right? And you have bad days. So you have someone to lift you through that. And, if you have like a big project, like when I had Bharat Bond going on, like he understands what it is. I mean, I don't have to explain this stuff. Or if the markets are really volatile and he's a fund manager, like I know what is happening. So that is easy. I mean, that is very nice. There are difficult parts to it, because there is honestly no work-life balance. I mean, your house has a lot of conversations about work, to be honest. And no matter how much you say compartmentalize, it doesn't really happen. The third part, as I said, is from a personal finance point of view, is both of you are in very high risk industries. So you have to manage to that. So it's a situation, and we learn to manage to it.
No, I have a vested interest in asking you this, and I'll tell you why.
Your wife?
She's my sister. The organization that I run is co-founded with my wife, and she's the owner of the organization. So let me tell you the truth. I have a vested interest in asking you.
Okay. Hopefully my answer did not get you into trouble.
No, maybe I'll share it offline with you, the answer of my side. Okay, so the next question that I have, Radhika, is what inspires you?
What inspires me? I think so. I have gone through different phases of what I want in life. And I'll tell you sort of future plans. In the early days, obviously, business and doing well and getting a good job and all that kind of stuff, was very interesting. By the time I got to my early 30s, I think leading people, building out a business, all that kind of inspired me. And it made me very happy, like to hire people and see them do well and see them grow, to build out a brand, which I've been able to do, and I'm kind of still doing with, Edelweiss Mutual Fund, inspires me. But I think now, there are two things. One is, I get very excited by doing something that people think is impossible. So I think one of the career highlights for me, for instance, has been doing something like Bharat Bond. I mean, the whole process of developing something from scratch, and I'm still remembering the time when it was approved by cabinet and FM launched the product. I mean, for a mutual fund to see finance minister launch your product on TV, to be at the listing, I think that, those are lifetime moments. I think the second thing that inspires me is if I can influence people positively, which I think this profession has given me the chance to do. I do so many of these talks, and I keep telling people, I encourage them to speak. Like, if you do a talk and you get a standing ovation, I mean, there's very little in life that compares to that kind of high. Or if someone sends you these letters that I get after broken neck, I mean, it will just change your day. When someone sends you a letter saying, there was a girl who wrote me a letter saying this is from the girl, and she titled it from the girl from Varanasi, how that talk let her parents move from Varanasi and pursue a career in finance. I mean, these are great stories. Yeah. So that is super inspirational. Yeah, and I hope that at maybe I'm reasonably young, maybe in my 40s, I have some quab of joining government or doing something at a more national level. I don't know what it is. I don't want to make a statement that I want to turn politician, but I definitely want to do something that touches people's lives.
In fact, you have answered my second question. I was about to ask you that, Wall Street, hedge fund manager, CEO, inspirational speaker, storyteller, but what is left or what is in the store for Radhika Gupta next?
So I have two. One is I want to do something in government. It could be regulatory. I mean, I also would love to work in a regulatory capacity at some point. Or I don't know if mainstream politics I'm cut out, but something government. I find people like Nandan Nilekani super inspirational, guys who have kind of contributed to India after doing so much in the private sector. And you're going to laugh at me, but somewhere later in life, I think I want to be a monk because there are not enough female monks out there. So I think we need to have a little club of female monks. So maybe that's on the cards at some point really late in life.
Okay, it would be great to have someone like Radhika as a monk. I mean, a lady monk, I would say.
A lady monk. So maybe on a brighter note, the lady monk may happen.
Good, it's going to be interesting. So we are coming almost to the end of this session, Radhika. The last one which I wanted to ask you is, you love poetry, and it's well known, I mean, to the people in circle. This has been a lockdown period. Anything you have specifically written or anything that you can share with us?
Oh God, there's so many pieces of poetry. So I'll share two with you. One is, I think, a poem by Nida Fazli that I love. Modi ji recited it in Parliament, and I think it talks about a lot of the things that I related very well to investor behavior, actually. So I'll share you that, and then I'll share one that is about sort of change in the world we are in. So the first one is called Safar Mein Dhoop To Hogi. And he says, सफर में धूप तो होगी, सफर में धूप तो होगी, जो चल सको तो चलो, सभी हैं भीड़ में, तुम भी निकल सको तो चलो, अब किसी के वास्ते राहें कहाँ बदलती हैं, किसी के वास्ते राहें कहाँ बदलती हैं, तुम अपने आप को बदल सको तो चलो. And I think this is a beautiful description of equity markets and markets के सफर है, उसमें धूप तो होगी, वो तो हो गए, volatility तो होगी, लेकिन और सभी लगे हुए हैं सफर में, तो ये जानते हुए अगर चल सकते हो तो चलो, और अगर मार्केट तो बदलेगा नहीं, अगर खुद को बदल सकते हो तो चलो. I think that is a very, very nice one. So I think that is one of my favorite poems for this crisis. The other one that I'll share with you, and this one I've written, is about the fact, and it's for young people, the fact that things are changing and you kind of have to have a positive outlook towards it, right? There are people and businesses who will come out as winners out of this change, and there are people who will cry and complain and be losers. So it says कि ये बात अलग है, तुम बदलो या ना बदलो, मगर जमाना बदल रहा है. ये बात अलग है, तुम बदलो या ना बदलो, लेकिन जमाना बदल रहा है. गुलाब पत्थर पे खिल रहा है और चिराग आंधी में जल रहा है. And I think it is the decision of every individual कि उन्हें पत्थर पे गुलाब खिलाना है या वो चिराग बनना है जो आंधी में जल रहा है, क्योंकि जमाना तो बदल रहा है, वो तो है.
Brilliant, Radhika. It has been really, really nice. So I'll just sum it up, Radhika. Thank you, Radhika. It's been a fantastic session of learning, and you have very well explained to us some of these, difficult concepts which exist. And I'm sure our investors are surely going to be benefited out of it. And, and I think investors should keep it very simple rather than make it very complicated. And behavior is the key. I mean, that's I would say should be the largest message, that your behavior is actually going to derive your returns. And I would surely like to end, since you are there, I would surely like to end this session with this small poetry. And, you know, I have written this poetry many a times to my investors when, you know, they complain about volatility and complain about markets. It goes something like this. ये जिंदगी है साहब, ये जिंदगी है साहब, कई रंग दिखाएगी. ये जिंदगी है साहब, कई रंग दिखाएगी. कभी रुलाएगी, कभी हंसाएगी. जो खामोशी से सह गए वो निखर जाएंगे. जो खामोशी से सह गए वो निखर जाएंगे. जो हमदर्दी में बह गए वो बिखर जाएंगे.
Very true, very true. And it's behavior. खुद को बदल सको तो चलो.
बिल्कुल. Thanks a lot, Radhika, for doing it with us. It's been a brilliant session. Thank you so